Welcome everyone today. I'm not going to teach you grammar. I'm not going to give you 100 vocabulary words. I'm not going to promise magic tricks. Today, I'm going to tell you a real story. The story of how one ordinary boy, not talented, not fluent, not confident, changed his English in just 30 days. Not because he was smart, not because he lived abroad, not because he had special teachers, but because he made one decision. He stopped wishing, and he became obsessed. In this video, you will not just hear motivation. You will hear the exact mindset shift, the exact system, the exact struggle, and the exact moment everything changed. If you have ever felt slow, if you have ever translated in your head, if you have ever felt embarrassed speaking English, this story is for you. Hello, my name is Daniel. I am 19 years old. I come from a small middle-class family. My father works long hours in a local shop. My mother takes care of the house. We are not poor, but we are not rich either. Growing up, English was just another school subject for me. I passed exams. I memorized answers. I learned grammar rules. But I never learned how to speak. In school, when the teacher asked questions in English, I avoided eye contact. If someone asked me to introduce myself in English, my heart would start beating fast. I knew words. But when I tried to speak, everything disappeared. My mind became blank. I would translate every sentence in my head. Mother tongue to English to speak. By the time I finished translating, the moment was gone. People moved on, and I stayed silent. I remember one moment clearly. I was at a small event. A guest asked me something simple in English. "Can you tell me about yourself?" It was an easy question. But I froze. My throat felt tight. My palms were sweating. My brain was racing. I gave a broken answer. Very short, very weak, very uncomfortable. That night I couldn't sleep. Not because of English, but because I felt small. And that feeling hurt. Not anger, not sadness, just disappointment in myself. I realized something painful. I had been learning English for years, but I was not improving. I was comfortable. Comfortable in fear, comfortable in excuses, comfortable in trying sometimes. And that night, I asked myself a serious question. Am I really serious about becoming fluent? Because deep down, I wanted it. I wanted to speak confidently. I wanted to express my ideas clearly. I wanted to stop feeling small. But wanting is not enough. I had to decide. The next morning, I made a decision. For the next 30 days, English would not be a hobby. It would be my mission. Not because someone forced me, but because I was tired of feeling powerless. I stopped blaming my school. I stopped blaming my environment. I stopped saying, "No one speaks English around me. I don't have practice partners. I don't have time." Those were excuses, and I was using them to protect my comfort. That day, I took ownership. I said to myself, if I am not fluent, it is my responsibility. That sentence changed my mindset completely. Because the moment you take ownership, you stop waiting for rescue. I didn't suddenly become confident. I didn't suddenly become fluent. But I became serious. I became obsessed. Not crazy obsession. Focused obsession. I changed my phone language to English. I removed useless apps. I replaced random scrolling with English listening. While walking, I listened to English. While eating, I watched English. Before sleeping, I thought in English. I stopped saying, "I will practice when I feel motivated." I started saying, "I practice even when I don't feel like it." Some days I felt tired. Some days I felt stupid. Some days I felt like nothing was improving. But I didn't stop. Because this time I wasn't trying. I was building. I stopped asking, am I fluent yet? I started asking, did I train today? That question saved me, because fluency is not built in one perfect day. It is built in 30 imperfect days. Slowly something changed. Not outside, inside. I stopped thinking like a student. I started thinking like a future fluent speaker. I told myself every morning, I am becoming fluent. Even when I made mistakes. Even when I felt embarrassed. Even when my sentences were broken. Because obsession is not loud. It is quiet discipline. It is choosing practice over comfort. It is choosing growth over excuses. For the first time in my life, English was not something I wished for. It was something I worked for. And that was the real beginning. That was day one. Read. The habit that changed my brain. After I decided to become obsessed, I realized something very important. I wanted to speak fluently, but I was not feeding my brain. I was trying to speak without enough input, and that was my mistake. Speaking is output, but reading is input. If your brain does not see correct English every day, it cannot produce correct English naturally. So I made a simple rule for myself. I will read every single day. No excuses, no breaks, not difficult books, not advanced vocabulary, not complicated grammar, simple English. At first, I didn't understand how powerful reading would be. I thought reading was boring. I thought speaking practice was more important. But I was wrong. Reading became the foundation of everything. Let me explain this in a simple way. Your brain is like soil. If you don't put seeds in it, nothing grows. Reading is planting seeds. Every sentence you read becomes a pattern in your brain. When I read sentences like, I believe that learning takes time, one of the most important lessons I learned is, in my opinion. My brain started memorizing these patterns automatically. Not by force, not by memorizing rules, just by repetition. And slowly, when I started speaking, those patterns came out naturally, without thinking. That is when I understood something powerful. Fluency is not about knowing grammar rules. It is about being familiar with sentence patterns. And reading builds familiarity. Let me be honest. I did not read big novels. I did not read academic books. I kept it simple. Short stories, simple articles, blog posts, motivational content, dialogues, children's books sometimes. Yes, even children's books, because simple English builds strong foundations. If you understand simple English deeply, advanced English becomes easier later. Many learners make a big mistake. They try to read very difficult content. Then they feel frustrated. Then they stop. I avoided that. My goal was not to impress anyone. My goal was to improve. This changed everything. At first, I only read silently. But then I realized something. When I read silently, my mouth was still weak. So I started reading out loud. Every day, 15 to 20 minutes. Slowly, clearly, with focus. At first, I made pronunciation mistakes. I felt awkward, but I continued. Because I understood something important. If I can read smoothly, I can speak smoothly. Reading out loud trains 3 things: pronunciation, confidence, sentence rhythm. And rhythm is very important. English has a rhythm. When you read out loud, you start feeling that rhythm. And once you feel it, your speaking becomes natural. After 1 week of daily reading, something small but powerful happened. When I tried to speak, I didn't struggle as much. Sentences came faster. Not perfect, but faster. Because my brain had seen those structures many times. It wasn't creating sentences from zero. It was copying patterns it had already absorbed. That's how fluency works. Not magic, not talent. Exposure, daily exposure. I made it very simple. Every day, 20 minutes reading, 5 minutes reading out loud, 5 minutes rereading difficult parts. That's it. No overthinking, no complicated method. Consistency was more important than intensity. Some days I felt tired. Some days I didn't want to read. But I remembered my obsession. I told myself, fluent people are built in moments like this. So I continued, even when it was boring, even when it was repetitive, because repetition builds familiarity, and familiarity builds confidence. Reading is not just about vocabulary. It teaches you how English thinks, the way ideas connect, the way sentences flow, the way emotions are expressed. For example, before reading daily, I would say, I am very happy. After reading more, I started saying, I feel incredibly grateful today. Not because I memorized it, but because I had seen similar sentences many times. Reading upgrades your expression naturally, without stress, without pressure. After 10 days of consistent reading, I noticed I understood English videos better. I paused less while speaking. I translated less. I felt more comfortable. It was not dramatic. It was gradual. But it was real. And that motivated me. Because I finally felt progress. Not fake motivation. Real improvement. They want to speak perfectly. But they don't want to read daily. That's like wanting to cook well without learning recipes. Reading feeds your speaking. Always remember that. If you don't feed your brain with English, your mouth cannot produce English smoothly. If you want to change your English in 30 days, read every day, not sometimes. Not when you feel motivated. Every day, even 15 minutes. Small daily action is stronger than one big action once a week. Reading is quiet work. Nobody sees it. Nobody praises it. But it builds the foundation of fluency. And foundation is everything. That was the second step of my transformation. Obsession gave me discipline. Reading gave me structure. And slowly, my confidence started growing. But something was still blocking me. Even after reading, I was still slow sometimes. And that is when I discovered the biggest enemy. Translation. Week 1. Stop translating, brain training phase. After I became obsessed, after I started reading every day, I noticed something painful. Even though I was reading daily, even though I was learning new words, I was still slow when speaking. Why? Because inside my head, I was still translating. Every sentence, every thought, every response. My brain was doing this. Mother tongue. Translate. English. Speak. And that process is slow. Very slow. Sometimes by the time I finished translating, the moment had already passed. People moved on, and I stayed quiet. That's when I realized something shocking. My real problem was not vocabulary. My real problem was translation. One day, I tried something simple. I tried to say, I am feeling tired today because I didn't sleep well. But inside my head, it sounded like this. First, I thought it in my mother tongue. Then I searched for English words. Then I tried to arrange grammar. Then I checked if it was correct. By the time I finished that process, my confidence was gone. And I asked myself, how do fluent people speak so fast? They don't translate. They think directly. And that was the difference between them and me. For week 1, I created one strict rule. No translation. Even if my English was broken. Even if I made mistakes. Even if I sounded stupid. I would not translate. I would think directly in English. At first it felt impossible. My brain resisted. It felt uncomfortable. It felt unnatural. It felt slow. But discomfort means growth. Comfort means staying the same. Day 1. Mental chaos. The first day was terrible. I tried to think in English. Simple thoughts. I am walking. This food tastes good. I feel hungry. The weather is hot. But my brain automatically switched back to my mother tongue. It was like my brain was addicted to the old system. So I forced it back, again and again, even for small thoughts, even for silly thoughts. When I looked at the wall, I would say in my mind, the wall is white. When I opened the door, I am opening the door. It felt stupid, but I didn't care, because this week was not about looking smart. It was about rewiring my brain. Your brain builds habits. For years, I trained my brain to think in my mother tongue. So of course, it was automatic. Now I was trying to change that habit. That means breaking old pathways, building new ones. And that takes repetition, not motivation. Repetition. Every time I forced myself to think in English, I was building a new mental pathway. At first, it was weak, very weak. But every repetition made it stronger. By day 3, I felt tired. Thinking in English all day is exhausting. My brain felt heavy. Sometimes I gave up and thought in my mother tongue. Then I felt disappointed. But instead of quitting, I adjusted. I didn't try to think perfectly. I thought simply. Short sentences, basic structure, no complex grammar. I told myself, simple English is still English. That sentence saved me. Every morning I did this. For 5 minutes, I described my surroundings in English. My bed is messy. I need to clean my room. My phone is on the table. I feel a little tired today. Then during the day, I narrated my actions in English inside my head. I am walking. I am checking my messages. I need to focus. And at night, before sleeping, I replayed my day in English. I woke up at 7. I felt sleepy. I studied. I practiced speaking. It was not beautiful English. It was basic, but it was direct. No translation. On day 5, something small happened. Very small, but powerful. I was thinking about something, and I realized I had just thought it in English. Without forcing, without translating. It was automatic. Just one sentence. But that one sentence gave me hope, because it proved something important. My brain was changing, slowly, quietly, but changing. The hardest part was this: letting go of perfection. When you stop translating, you will make mistakes. Your sentences may not be perfect. Your grammar may not be correct. But if you keep translating, you will stay slow forever. So I chose speed over perfection. And that changed everything. After 7 days of strict no translation rule, I noticed I responded faster in simple conversations. I paused less. I felt less pressure. My mind didn't freeze as much. Was I fluent? No, not even close. But I was faster. And speed builds confidence. Confidence builds fluency. Week 1 was not about sounding good. It was about thinking differently. Fluency starts in the brain, not the mouth. If your brain depends on translation, your fluency will always feel slow. But if your brain learns to think directly, your mouth will follow. That was the biggest shift. And that was only week 1. I was not fluent yet. But something powerful had started. I had broken the first chain, and that chain was translation. Week 2. I built a simple daily routine, the discipline phase. After week 1, something changed in my brain. I was thinking more in English, not perfectly, but more naturally. However, I noticed something dangerous. Some days I practiced a lot. Some days I practiced very little. My effort depended on my mood, and that is when I understood something powerful. Motivation is unreliable. System is powerful. In week 1, I fought translation. In week 2, I fought inconsistency. Because obsession without structure becomes chaos. And I didn't want chaos. I wanted control. Before week 2, my practice looked like this. Some days I watched 2 hours of English videos. Other days I did nothing. Some days I read. Other days I scrolled social media. It was random. And random effort gives random results. I realized something very clearly. Fluency is not built by intensity. It is built by repetition. So I asked myself a serious question. What would a disciplined person do? Not a motivated person. A disciplined person. And that question changed everything. I decided to remove decisions. Yes, remove decisions. Because every time I ask myself, should I practice today? How long should I practice? What should I do? I was giving my lazy brain space to argue. So I built a fixed routine. Simple, clear, repeatable. Every single day, 20 minutes reading, 20 minutes listening, 15 minutes speaking, 5 minutes review. Not 3 hours, not 5 hours, just 1 hour. But every day, no negotiation. Many learners make a big mistake. They create a huge, unrealistic plan. From tomorrow, I will study 4 hours daily. Then they fail. Then they feel guilty. Then they quit. I didn't want drama. I wanted consistency. 1 hour every day, no excuses. Even on bad days. Even on tired days. Even on boring days. Especially on boring days. Because boring days build discipline. Let me explain clearly what I did. Morning reading. Phase. Before checking my phone. Before social media. Before distractions. I read 20 minutes. Sometimes articles. Sometimes short stories. Sometimes motivational content. I underlined useful sentences. I didn't memorize. I observed how sentences were formed, how ideas were connected. Then I read 5 minutes out loud. Slow, clear, focused, even if I made mistakes, because reading out loud trained my mouth and confidence. Afternoon, listening phase. During walking or free time, I listened to English, but not randomly. I used a simple method. 1. Listen 2 to 3 minutes. 2. Pause. 3. Repeat what I heard. 4. Then summarize in my own words. At first, summarizing was difficult. My brain felt slow, but that struggle was training. It forced my brain to process faster. This was the hardest part. 15 minutes speaking alone. No phone, no distraction. Just me. Sometimes I spoke in front of a mirror. Sometimes I recorded my voice. Sometimes I imagined I was teaching someone. I chose simple topics. My day. My goals. My fears. Why I want to become fluent. At first I paused a lot. I repeated words. I made grammar mistakes. But I did not stop. That was the rule. No stopping, no restarting, just flow. Night review phase. Before sleeping, I reviewed my day in English. What did I learn today? Where did I struggle? What improved? And I wrote 3 to 4 sentences in English. Very simple. Writing made my thoughts clearer. Week 2 was not exciting. It was repetitive. And repetition is boring. My brain wanted novelty, entertainment, dopamine. But I chose structure. Some mornings I felt lazy. My mind said, skip today. You deserve rest. Tomorrow is fine. But I answered, fluent people don't skip. I was not fluent yet, but I started behaving like someone who would be. That is identity shift. You don't wait to become fluent to act disciplined. You act disciplined to become fluent. After 5 to 6 days, something interesting happened. Practice felt normal, not special, not dramatic. normal. And when something becomes normal, it becomes sustainable. English was no longer extra work. It became part of my daily life, like brushing my teeth. That was powerful. Because consistency removes emotional struggle. Was I fluent? No. Did I still make mistakes? Yes. Did I still feel nervous sometimes? Yes. But I noticed I was more confident speaking alone. My thinking speed improved. I understood more while listening. My pronunciation became clearer. I paused less. Most importantly, I trusted myself more. Because I proved something to myself. I can stay consistent. That builds confidence beyond language. Fluency is not built by motivation. It is built by routine. Routine removes excuses. Routine builds identity. Routine builds momentum. Week 2 didn't make me fluent. It made me disciplined. And discipline is the foundation of fluency. Without discipline, week 3 and week 4 would fail. But now, I had a strong base. My brain was thinking more in English. My routine was stable. But one major problem still existed. My mouth was still slow. Week 3. Train the mouth, the muscle phase. By the time I reached week 3, something inside me had changed. I was thinking more in English. My routine was stable. I was consistent. But when I spoke, my mouth still felt slow, heavy, untrained. My brain sometimes formed the sentence, but my mouth couldn't deliver it smoothly. And that's when I understood something powerful. Fluency is not only mental, it is physical. Speaking is a muscle skill, and my speaking muscles were weak. Most learners think, if I know the words, I can speak. But knowing and speaking are different. I knew words, but when I tried to say long sentences, my tongue hesitated. My pronunciation broke. My rhythm disappeared, and sometimes I felt angry. Why am I still slow? Then I asked myself, how many hours have I trained my mouth? Very few. I trained my brain, I trained my routine, but I had not trained my mouth. So week 3 became different. It became uncomfortable, because now I had to speak out loud daily, not silently, not in my head. Out loud. I stood in front of a mirror, and I said, today I am training my mouth. It felt strange, almost funny, but I was serious. I started reading a paragraph out loud, slow, careful, clear. At first I stumbled. My pronunciation was not smooth. I repeated words. I paused randomly. I felt embarrassed, even though nobody was there. That's how strong fear can be. Even alone, I felt judged, but I didn't stop. I created a strict structure for week 3. Every single day, 10 minutes reading out loud, 10 minutes shadowing, 10 minutes free speaking, 30 minutes total. No skipping. Reading out loud, precision phase. I chose simple content, not advanced vocabulary, not complex sentences. I focused on pronunciation, clarity, rhythm. When I read, I paid attention to how words connected, how pauses sounded, how sentences flowed. At first, my reading sounded robotic, like I was forcing every word. But after 4 to 5 days, something started changing. My mouth felt lighter. The sentences flowed more naturally. Not perfect, but smoother. Shadowing. Speed phase. Shadowing was difficult. Very difficult. I would play a short audio clip, just 20 to 30 seconds. Then I would repeat immediately, trying to match speed and tone. At first I couldn't keep up. The speaker was too fast, too smooth. I felt slow, behind, frustrated. But instead of quitting, I slowed the audio, practiced, repeated, tried again and again. Shadowing trains speed. It forces your mouth to move faster. It forces your brain to process quickly. And that pressure builds strength. After 1 week of shadowing, I noticed something powerful. My speaking speed improved, not dramatically, but noticeably. Free speaking, endurance phase. 10 minutes non-stop speaking. No stopping, no restarting, no editing. Even if I made mistakes, even if I forgot a word, even if I repeated myself. Just flow. At first I lasted 2 to 3 minutes. Then my mind went blank. Silence. I felt weak. But instead of stopping, I continued speaking something, even nonsense. Because silence kills confidence. Movement builds confidence. By day 5, I could speak 7 to 8 minutes without freezing. Still not fluent, but stronger. Let me be honest. This week tested my ego. When you hear yourself speaking, you realize your weaknesses clearly. Your accent, your hesitation, your mistakes. It hurts. You think, maybe I'm not improving. Maybe I'm not good at this. But improvement is not loud. It is quiet. You don't feel it daily. You see it weekly. One evening, while speaking alone, I noticed something. I finished a full sentence without pausing. Then another. Then another. I didn't translate. I didn't freeze. It was not perfect, but it was smooth. And for the first time, I felt a small spark of confidence. Not fluency. Confidence. That's different. Fluency is speed plus clarity plus calmness. I had speed increasing, clarity improving, calmness growing. But still, I was not fluent. Not yet. You cannot think your way into fluency. You must speak your way into fluency. Your mouth must get tired. Your tongue must struggle. Your voice must shake. And then slowly, your system adapts. Week 3 built. Pronunciation strength. Speaking stamina. Mental speed. Confidence under pressure. But something was still missing. Week 4. I started speaking alone. Every day. The fluency week. I had improved. I was thinking more in English. My mouth was faster. My pronunciation was better. But I still had one problem. When I tried to speak like a real fluent person, I still stopped sometimes. I still searched for words. I still had fear hiding inside me. Not loud fear, silent fear. The fear that says, what if I sound stupid? What if I make a mistake? What if I forget the sentence? Week 4 was the week where I attacked that fear completely. Week 4 was the week where I stopped practicing English and started living in English. On the first day of week 4, I made one decision. I will speak every day no matter what. Even if I'm tired. Even if I'm busy. Even if I feel embarrassed. Even if I make mistakes. I realized something powerful. Fluent people are not fluent because they make 0 mistakes. They are fluent because they keep speaking even when mistakes happen. So in week 4, I stopped trying to speak perfectly. I tried to speak continuously. Because the biggest enemy of fluency is not grammar, it is stopping. Stopping kills flow, and fluency is flow. Every day I will do 3 speaking sessions. 1. Morning speaking, 10 minutes. 2. Afternoon speaking, 10 minutes. 3. Night speaking, 15 to 20 minutes. And one more rule, no memorized scripts. I will speak from my mind, from my life, from my feelings. Because real fluency is not remembering lines. Real fluency is expressing reality. Every morning I stood in front of the mirror. Not to look handsome. Not to motivate myself with fake energy. To train my mouth and brain immediately. I would speak about very simple things. How am I feeling today? What is my plan? What do I want to improve today? At first, mornings were hard. Because the brain is lazy in the morning. It wants comfort. So this session was like exercise for my speaking brain. Some mornings my sentences were broken. I said things like, today, I want to, I will, practice. But I did not stop. I forced the flow. Because when you force flow daily, flow becomes natural. In the afternoon, I started speaking while walking. Not in public loudly, but softly. Or sometimes just in my mind, and then out loud when alone. I described the world around me like a narrator. The road is busy. People are rushing. The sky looks heavy. I can hear noise everywhere. Then I added deeper thoughts. This world moves fast. Most people are distracted. I am building something different. I am training myself. This wasn't just English practice. This was identity practice. I was teaching my brain. English is not a classroom language. English is my life language. That shift is huge. At night, I did the hardest part. 15 to 20 minutes nonstop speaking. No pause, no restart, no editing. If I forgot a word, I used another word. If I didn't know a sentence, I simplified it. If my grammar was wrong, I continued. Because the goal was fluency, not perfection. I spoke like I was doing a podcast. I spoke like I was teaching. I spoke like someone was listening. Sometimes I recorded my voice, and when I listened back, I noticed something shocking. My English sounded more natural, not perfect, but alive, not robotic, not memorized, real. Let me tell you the moment I will never forget. It was around day 25 or day 26. I was doing my night speaking session. I was talking about my goals. Then I noticed something. I was not translating. I was not searching for every word. I was not checking grammar in my head. I was just speaking. I stopped for a second and I thought, wait, what is happening? Then I continued. And the more I continued, the more I realized. My brain was building sentences automatically. This was the first time English felt like a flow, not a fight. And that moment gave me goosebumps. Because I understood something. Fluency is not a big explosion. It is a quiet switch. One day, your brain stops struggling and starts responding. Let me explain exactly what changed. My fear reduced because I spoke daily. Fear dies with exposure. My speed increased because my brain practiced thinking fast daily. My sentence patterns became automatic. Because reading plus speaking built structures in my head. My confidence became stable. Because I trusted myself. I proved I could speak every day. Confidence does not come from compliments. Confidence comes from evidence. Week 4 gave me evidence. If you want fluency fast, you must stop waiting for people. Most learners keep saying, I don't have anyone to practice with. But the truth is, you don't need people to start. You need courage to speak alone. Because speaking alone is not pointless. Speaking alone is where fluency is born. If you can speak alone confidently, you will speak with people easily. Week 4 taught me that. I also did something else. I started living with English around me. Not for fun, for training. I listened to English while doing chores. I read small things daily. I spoke daily. I even started thinking about my future in English. I replaced random thinking with English thinking. That was the real secret. Not studying harder. Living differently. At the end of week 4, I looked at myself in the mirror. And I realized something. I was not the same person. Not because my English became perfect, but because my fear became smaller. My mind became faster. My voice became confident. My identity changed. I no longer said, I am learning English. I said, I speak English. That is fluency. Fluency is not perfection. Fluency is the ability to express yourself smoothly and calmly, even with mistakes. And that is what I gained. If you want to speak fluent English in 1 month, Listen carefully. Week 1 builds brain. Week 2 builds discipline. Week 3 builds mouth. Week 4 builds flow. Let me tell you something from my heart. 1 month ago, I was scared to speak. I felt slow. I felt behind. I felt embarrassed. But today, I speak without freezing. I speak without translating. I speak without fear controlling me. Am I perfect? No. But I am confident. And confidence is freedom. Fluency is not about sounding like a native. Fluency is about expressing your mind without panic. Fluency is about speaking even when your sentence is not perfect. Fluency is about flow. And flow comes from courage. If you want to change your English in 30 days, don't ask if it's possible. Ask if you are willing to suffer for it. Because transformation requires discomfort. You will feel tired. You will feel frustrated. You will feel slow. But if you don't quit, something magical happens quietly. Your brain adapts. Your fear reduces. Your confidence grows. And one day, you speak a full paragraph without stopping. And you smile. Because you realize, you built this. Nobody gave it to you. You earned it. And that feeling of earning your own fluency, is powerful. So don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't wait for confidence. Don't wait for permission. Start today. Commit for 30 days. Give your effort fully. If you fail one day, continue the next. If you succeed, push further. Because this is not just about English. This is about proving to yourself that you can change. And once you prove that, you become unstoppable. Now the decision is yours. Will you stay the same? Or will you commit to 30 days that can change your life? Your future fluent self is waiting. Start today.